What's going on, guys? Wanted to talk to you real quickly about what's been happening recently in the Arizona real estate market. So there's a lot of news in regards to interest rates, inventory, what's going on in the economy at large, stuff like that. So want to talk about a little bit of the numbers. We'll jump into my interpretation of what they mean for the buyers and sellers and go from there. So I've got a couple pages of notes in front of me that I'll probably be looking down and referencing quite a bit just to make sure that I stay accurate and stay on track, but let's dive right in. So one of the big things we want to focus on is how many homes are actively listed for sale. We're going to focus in on Maricopa County. So for Maricopa County, right now we've got 16,272 homes listed on the market. And this is important when we compare it to June of this year, which was 8,000, and then January of this year, which was just over 4,000. So we've basically doubled what we had back in June, and then obviously done 4 times, or have currently 4 times what we had back in January. So the way this has affected some of the homes that are closing though, is back in January and June, we had just over 6,000 homes closing in a 30-day period. And currently we're having 4,805 homes close in a 30-day period. So obviously the number has come down, or is down currently from what it was, but we're still seeing homes move on the market. So it's not that nothing is selling, everything's stuck, the machine is grinded to a halt. What we do see though is obviously the ratio is a lot different. When we've got 4,000 active and then 6,000 selling in a month, that means that it is just a revolving door of listings. Whereas right now when we have 16,000 just under 5,000 are selling in a month, that means things are moving a lot slower. Our inventory is taking longer to go through. So a big part of this has been we saw prices continue to increase month over month for several years up until May of this year. Couple that with interest rates started going up back in January of this year. Which now we're sitting between 6.5% to 7%. It really depends on the day, and also depends on how the lender is going to advertise that with interest rate buy downs. But if you guys want to know more about that, shoot me a DM on Instagram or shoot me a text message, email, whatever, and we can talk about that further. So getting back to our purchase price though, the median purchase price for Maricopa County ended up going to $540,000 in May. In August, this is the most recent numbers that I'm referencing right now. So obviously we're missing the September numbers, and October is just finishing up. So we don't have those numbers just yet. But from May, which was 540,000, August went down to 500,000. So we saw a $40,000 swing in the median purchase price. And an important note to see on that is we saw the luxury home sales go up in August. So the prices of those homes did come down. We saw Paradise Valley especially see, I think their median purchase price came down $300,000, but the amount that were being bought was up on the luxury side, where they're more the average home at $450,000 and below, those home sales were down quite significantly. So it is interesting to look at as far as, all right, it's not that everyone just stopped buying the luxury home, so that's what gave us this $40,000 drop. But it does seem that the market is kind of, everyone in the market is looking around going, hey, this seems a little high right now. And we're seeing that based on the inventory, how many days on market we have, things of that nature. So let's talk about the interest rate real quickly. We have an interest rate that's up basically 3 or more percent. That kind of depends on the day, and it also depends on where we're comparing it to. So if we're going back to last year, 3% is a safe bet, I'd say, in how far we have gone up so far. What that means though, for your monthly payment, if I have a buyer, they say, okay, we want to go buy a house, and we got them pre-qualified last year at an interest rate that was in like 3.5%, and we got them pre-qualified to go buy a house. For that same person today with a 3% higher interest rate, so if we could get them a 6.5, to get the same monthly payment for both of these people, we would have to see a reduction of around $90,000 in the purchase price to get that same monthly payment. So there's a lot of factors involved as far as a lot of the cash over listing price has stopped that was going on earlier this year, which is good. And we're seeing that obviously in the response to, if we've got a $90,000 swing between these two, obviously we need to kind of make up that difference. The other side that we're seeing is, like we said, the median purchase price is coming down. So we don't think that all of the appreciation that we've seen in the last year or last several years is going to go away because of this, but at the same time, the market is still trying to find its balance, especially with some speculation on what the economy is doing currently. Did mention the days on market before, and so we're going to kind of jump into some of my thoughts and notes for anyone thinking about selling right now. So the initial reaction that I usually have with this, as far as, hey, the days on market are a lot higher, we're having to take in some ways a little bit lower prices for the houses. It makes it where I'm not going out there beating the drum that, hey, if you want to sell, now is an amazing time. The flip side of that coin, though, that I do want to mention, if someone did want to sell their home and they've been in it for quite a while, you probably still have quite a bit of appreciation that we've realized in the last several years. Is it at the peak like it was earlier this year? Probably not, but at the same time, it's something just to consider as far as what you've been able to appreciate is still going to be a significant amount. So looking in regards to where you would move from there, that's going to be a discussion we'll get to here in a minute with some of our buyer's notes, but just something to note as far as, let's not forget, we have seen quite a bit of appreciation for the people who have had homes, I'd say prior to 2020. So that would be something to look at as far as if you're interested in selling and moving, we can take a look at that together, and I'd be happy to walk through all of that with you. The expectation, though, with the days on the market is what I'd say does need to change, just because back, I'd say January of this year and then going into 2021, we were able to turn around homes basically in a weekend. We could put a sign in the yard, have a bunch of offers, sign in the yard Friday, have an offer accepted by Monday, and everything was going crazy. That's why we saw the actives were at 4,000 and then the closed in a month were at 6,000, just because it was this revolving door moving super quickly. So the new expectation then with the days on market is going to be, we just have to go in saying we're going to need to probably put a little more prep work in to the homes that we're selling. We're going to want to make sure that we're more considerate of what the buyers are looking for in terms of the terms that they're looking for, if that's closing date, if that's seller concessions, things of that nature. And we'll talk a little bit more about seller concessions in a minute. So let's jump over to my buyers real quickly, talk to them, and we'll get to some of those options. So right now, with the interest rate being a lot higher, it's going to make it harder to qualify for people, especially when we're trying to look at what kind of a monthly payment can they afford. I will say, though, as far as if someone is able to qualify, we do have more inventory currently, which gives you more choices and more negotiation power, like we talked about kind of from the seller's perspective a minute ago. We've got people where you're going to be able to shop more, choose the one you want, and usually your offer in more cases is going to be uncontested just because the homes are sitting a little bit longer. So it's not a foolproof, hey, you can go in and just grab whatever you want, because like we said, the homes are still moving, but it's not the madhouse that it was back earlier this year. The other thing too that we can consider is this interest rate buy down. And that can work in two ways. So this is kind of my realtor's perspective on how it works. This would be something I would refer you to a lender to really get all of the details about, but let's jump into it. So the interest rate that we see, if it's at 6.5%, there is the ability for us to buy down that rate using points. And the lender will be able to walk through what each point costs in regard, in exchange for how much that brings down the interest rate. because it does change as far as how much that point does affect it. For just this example right here, we're going to talk about a quarter of a percent. There we go. If 1 point can bring down that interest rate a quarter of a percent. Sometimes it's an eighth, sometimes it's a half. It really depends on the market. So if you do have some extra cash coming in, that might be something as far as we could say, do we want to try and put some of this money towards buying down that interest rate so your monthly payment will be lower because we've affected the amount of interest that you're going to be paying every month. Now, I would say this doesn't apply in all cases, just from the buyer side, because if you're planning on moving very quickly, usually you don't see the return on that money until about 7 years in. But once again, that's something a lender could walk through with you and we could discuss depending on your specific situation. Now, let's talk about how these two can collaborate, our buyers and our sellers, in regards to the interest rate buy down or seller concessions. So we're going to have a down payment and closing costs for our buyers that we've got to consider when we're coming in to buy a house. The seller concession is a way of saying when the buyer purchases the house, the seller is willing to use some of their proceeds to cover some of the closing costs that the buyer needs to cover. So this can work in regards to if the buyer has the money to cover their down payment and closing costs, but if we can talk to the seller about helping us cover those closing costs, we can then take the money that we had set aside for that to try and buy down that interest rate. There, in some cases, are options where the seller concessions that would help with the closing costs can also sometimes help us buy down that interest rate. It is sometimes case dependent, so once again, I'd say we've got some lending partners who are going to be able to clarify that a little more. And I'd be happy to refer any of you to some lenders that I do trust to be able to walk through a lot of that with you. But let's just take a step back real quick and look at it like this. The sellers obviously want to sell their home. Buyers need to be able to qualify to buy the homes right now. So if we can work together by saying, can we buy down their interest rate so they're able to qualify, you can then buy, the seller's able to get the return out of their house and go from there. That's in some ways how we've seen the market's changing, but at the same time, we want to be working in a collaborative way to be able to continue to help people move in this kind of changing market right now, or in this market that is a lot different than we saw earlier this year. Last thing I'll talk about real quickly is going to be for people who are renting currently and are looking to buy a home in the next couple of years. I'd say the biggest thing right now is we have seen rents go up. I think, I don't want to misquote this, but I think the median rent in Maricopa County was over $2,300. So in that case, sometimes it is worth it to take a look in regards to what could you buy with that same monthly payment that you, if you were to qualify for with a mortgage. Because at that point, you'd be able to start paying into your appreciating asset rather than into a landlord's appreciating asset. If you're in a position right now where you do have a rent that is lower than what you'd be able to qualify for, lower than what you would get on the other side with your monthly payment on a mortgage, and you're looking to save money right now, I would absolutely encourage you to do that. Make sure you're saving money so that hopefully if these interest rates do come down, we'd be in a good position to be able to put a good down payment. We can cover all the closing costs and go from there. The other thing would be also just to be paying attention to where's the credit score at, making sure that the credit score is in a healthy spot so that we can really capitalize on the best interest rate possible when it comes time to buy. I know that we've gone over quite a bit so far, so just kind of want to walk everything back real quick. Obviously, the inventory of active homes that we're seeing right now has increased drastically from the beginning of this year. But the other thing to remember is that homes are still moving on the market. So it's not that we have this active inventory that's just growing and is not moving to going under contract and then closing. Like we said, we're still having just under 5,000 homes close every month. So if you guys are looking to move, if you are looking to sell your home, it isn't a oh my gosh, nothing's going to happen. It's going to be more challenging, but that's where our job comes in to make sure that you are, as the client, are taken care of to be able to get that done. And for our buyers, our job is to make sure that we can work with those sellers that are listing right now to see if we can get you into that home. So if you guys know someone or if you're looking to buy or sell, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to help you guys out with all of that. If you've got any questions, feel free to put in the comments, shoot me an email, reach out to me on Instagram. I'll put my Instagram in the description of the video as well. Hope you guys have a great day. Hope all of this was helpful, and I will catch you on the next video.